Disclaimer. To the Pharisees and Karens out there.
How dare you?
All guests on this show do not reflect the opinions of the host. The purpose of this show is to have interesting conversations, stretch our minds, and grow.
Not what we want.
If you are looking for an echo chamber, viewer and listener discretion
is advised.
You talk about extreme.
What is happening and what is up? Hold out your glass, because we're about to fill it up.
Join us as we travel and explore the vast unknown. It's a hero's journey with dragons to slay, damsels to save, and innumerable treasures to hoard. Torches high.
Look at it from a different perspective.
Top Lobster Productions.
What does God look like? What do you see?
We're solar-powered biological AI.
Wait, what?
These ancient adversarial entities, I think it's the very same ones that rebelled against God and were cast out.
They were sent here to guide us in antiquity, and they took advantage of that and just masqueraded as gods. What's going on, everybody? Good afternoon, and welcome back to the Gray Pilled Podcast. I am your host, Jules, your humble host, as always, here with Doc Brown, Justin, from the Prometheus Lens podcast. Doc, what's going on, man? How you doing today?
What's happening, Captain? I really appreciate you reaching out and inviting me, man. I'm sure we'll have some real good conversations. We were talking pre-roll. I was like, I've had several people tell me I need to get with you, so I'm glad it happened.
Yeah, man. I'm glad we could definitely, and to make it happen on a weekend, because I'll schedule on weekdays, but after working 10 hours and then coming home and hopping right on, it's like you want to have the best talk that you can have, right? You want to have your head at 100%. So glad that you could catch me on a weekend, man.
Yeah, it definitely works out because my 9 to 5, it's I work 10-hour days, but I got like an hour and a half drive one way. So like you said, if you catch me on the week, man, I'm kind of dragging, tanks running on about half empty.
Yeah. I have a show I produce every Tuesday, Already Dead, Austin Pickard and Jose Gallus on. It's like a parapolitical conspiracy show, which is like the least of my expertise. I'm more into the esoteric and like the occult symbolism and stuff like that. But it's fun to get on there with them. And now I'm like a third wheel. I'm like the third I forced myself into being their third co-host. So, so yeah, I have a show I do on Tuesdays, and then I have like 4 shows that are just under Gray Pilled, like 4 different shows that I do with different people. So I stay busy, man, especially just doing like a one-man show kind of deal. I don't have a co-host or anything. Well, not for like some like stuff like this or all my deep dives and my Patreon content. But enough about me, Doc. For people who don't know who you are, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of what your podcast is about, what you talk about. I'm sure it's similar to a lot of things we get into over here on Gray Pilled.
Oh yeah. My name's Justin. Kind of got the nickname Doc Brown. I'm that, what do you call that when you got like a 7-foot guy and he's got the nickname Tiny, an oxymoron, I guess you could call it. It's like here you have this, deep Southern drawl, And then for me to talk about the things that I talk about and know about, a lot of people is just like, what the hell? This guy's like, he's a doc. He's a,
Yeah,
he's a
well,
doc.
yeah, no, I could definitely see you as a doc.
Mm.
More
Yeah, it's
Doc
just
than
kind
a
of stuck.
Dustin for sure, dude. I don't know.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm just a 9 to 5 knuckle dragger, man. I've been a factory rat all my life, but I was that kid that loved history, grew up in the church, loved the Bible, and had a lot of questions, man. And I don't know, it was like 2012. One day I was doom scrolling, and I had my red pill moment with a guy named Trey Smith from God in a Nutshell. And I grew up in church my whole life, and thought I knew the Bible really well. And of course, you have your rebellious stages and everything else. But uh, he was talking about fallen angels coming down breeding with the daughters of men, and UFOs, and just all kinds of this, cool stuff that we find ourselves fascinated with once we find out.
Right.
But I was like, this guy's crazy, man. I know my Bible well. That stuff ain't in there. And so I started going through and checking it all out, and lo and behold, he was right. But I was one of those Sethite view guys. The few times I'd heard Genesis 6 talked about in church, it was the good line of Seth breeding with the bad line of Cain. They just made spiritually wicked people. And
Right.
yeah, so 2012, I just started deep diving and reading everything I could get my hands on. Dr. Michael Heiser's Unseen Realm and all that stuff. And it was 2022. I had invited a group of friends from church and some of the people in my friend circle for like a hangout, just I guess you could call it a men's group or study group. But I
Yeah.
just wanted some guys to get together and hell, have some pizza, maybe drink a few beers, and talk about the cool, weird stuff in the Bible, and kind of expose some of this stuff to them. And invited 15, 20 guys. I had maybe 3 dudes show up, and 3 meetings later, my friend's like, man, this is pretty profound stuff. We should be recording this, doing a podcast. And I never even knew what a podcast was. So when I found out what it was, I was like, no, I can't do that, man. No,
Right.
I can start listening to them now that I know they're there, but no, I ain't doing that. And he rode me pretty hard till I finally said yes. And thank God I did, man, because it's a passion of mine. It's something that I really love and thoroughly enjoy.
Oh yeah, man. No, I can definitely tell that, especially when I've seen you on the few podcasts that I've seen you on. You definitely seem to be passionate about the stuff you're talking about, and then that's important because once it gets to be like a job, or it gets to be a hassle, and stops to be like fun. That's it's probably time to not do it anymore. I just got to a 100 episodes
Oh
last
yeah,
night.
congratulations, man.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, it's something. It's something. I wanted to pull your page up though. I should have done it when I first introduced you, but I tried to look for you on Rumble, but I
No,
couldn't
I ain't
find you
on
over
Rumble
there.
yet.
Not on Rumble.
No, I
You can
need
come
to
on
just
over.
for a backup, but we started catching
You're
on
on
to some of my
YouTube.
stuff. I've been starting to get warnings on stuff, and it's stupid stuff. I got a warning the other day for hate speech, and then it pulled it up, and it was an episode I did with a guy talking about the financial beast system, and they clipped, they marked or time stamped the issue. And so I went back and watched it, and the guy was talking about, he mentioned the Rockefellers, and he mentioned the Economist, and he pulled up the magazine article, and I think it was from like 2002 or 3, but it was before crypto, and it had this phoenix bird with a gold chain on with a crypto emblem hanging, and it was standing on a pile of American dollars, and it was on fire, and it said death of the American dollar, and it flagged that word death. And I was like, what the
Right.
hell? So it's like, do they think that I was having hate speech against the Rockefellers and was threatening death? And I appealed it, and I'm like, he's talking about, the Economist and currency, the word death. He's reading the headline of this article, and it was like maybe 15, 20 seconds. I got an email back, your appeal has been declined.
Wow. And that was on YouTube?
Yeah.
Yeah, they froze my account about a week ago for a couple days until I sent them a message. I was like, I'll delete some of the videos apparently that have copyright content. I didn't know. They never informed me of any of it before, so it's my first time hearing about it. And, go to my profile and it says this page doesn't exist. Wait a minute, something's not right here.
Yeah, it's bad because everybody I've talked to so far, it's like, once you're under the radar, you're cool. But once you get a strike or something on your account, you are now on the radar, and they'll start digging through all your stuff to find every little thing they can. I've heard of people getting 3 strikes within a week because once they get put on the radar, they just start really fine combing through your stuff.
Don't tell me that. Oh, dude, I might have to go back. That's why I like Rumble so much. And talk about whatever you really want to, and listen, look. You can watch stuff on. You have watch parties on there and stuff, dude. You can't. That's copyrighted on YouTube.
Yeah.
So
well, it's just the crowd too. You know what I mean? It is what it is. I mean, YouTube. It sucks to be censored and have to be real careful and watch what you say, but that's where the people are, man. Like you, I've only been doing this a year, but I'm working on 6,000 or 7,000 subscribers over there, and I was monetized within the first month. And yeah, you ain't getting no killer money, but I mean, you're getting a couple $100 a month, and that helps
you're
pay
killing
for all
it,
your
dude.
subscriptions and stuff.
Yeah. Well, hold on. You said you've only been doing this a year?
Yeah.
Oh, dude, you've been killing it, man. I've been doing it the same amount of time as you, and I don't have near as many followers as you do. But like I said, I think I shadow banned myself within the first few months of me starting to stream.
Right.
And I've also I have conflicting views than a lot of other people, especially even when it comes to Christianity and stuff, man. Like I have some takes that people would consider like blasphemous or heretical, but it's really like, I'm reading into a lot of things that people don't see at first glance. You kind of have to look into it a little more, like you were saying, kind of understand it a little bit deeper. The esoteric tones, right? Which you find a lot of people never even go looking for.
Oh no. And that was one of the reasons I wanted to start the show too, because it was like with me, I grew up in church, read all the stuff, and thought I had a good grasp on it. And then once I started going deeper and looking into the Hebrew and the Greek and just the culture, and finding all the micro and meta narratives interwoven into this story, it honestly excited me because I was kind of like, when the saints go marching in, what I mean? Suit, tie, robot. It's like it become mundane and a ritual. And I know it sounds bad, but it's after a while you get told the same story. You're like, yes, I know Jesus died on the cross for my sins. And yes, I know this. Yes, I know that. But when you actually start deep diving and you find this stuff and find all the deeper connections and find that, it doesn't have to be blind faith. It's something you can see, you can feel, taste, touch. It just invigorates you, man. It excites you. And to me, it drew me closer to God and made me want to know him better and understand, his people and how he talked to his people. And I knew that if it did that to me, I wanted to do that for others, because I found that so many people in the church they're in that robotic saints go marching in, and they're dead inside. Stuff like this, if it would awaken me spiritually and excite me, I know not everyone's like me, but there has to be a handful. So if I can invigorate somebody and get them excited to dive back into the word and find some of these little hidden treasure trove nuggets, why wouldn't I want to do that?
Absolutely. That's beautifully put, man. I'm gonna have to clip that, Doc. Yeah, man, no, that's what brought me closer to Christ, and like, the real meaning of the Holy Spirit, right? Because I've said this a lot of times before. People, they can read the Bible 100 times, go to church every Sunday, and could still be, not walking in the Spirit whatsoever, right?
Yeah.
And then they'll come at guys like me and you and tell us that we're not Christians, that we are, this or that, blasphemers, whatever you want to call it. And it's like, yeah, is that really like what you're like? It's like every person has their own walk with Christ, right? Their own relationship. And so for you to tell someone else like, hey, your walk with faith is not it's not the right one.
Hmm.
I just think that's bullshit, dude. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, and that was one of the frameworks too when I started this show, because the first one I did, that was just kind of like a little Bible study podcast I did with a few friends, and I wanted to extend that. I was like, I think this biblical lens filters through everything. Conspiracy, cryptids, ancient lost civilizations, all that stuff. The Bible has an answer if you just filter it through the right lens and have the right perspective. But like you had said, I had read Joseph Campbell's Hero of a Thousand Faces, and I read about the archetypes and the hero's journey. And that's kind of what I've coined the show. The show's the Prometheus lens, but I've coined it, it's the hero's journey. You have to go into the unknown. You have to face the dragon. You have this great adventure to go on, and that's what you're called to do. And you hoard up the treasure and the gold nuggets, man, but then once you get this prize of great wealth, the Greeks called it the boon.
What are you going to do with it?
Yeah, your journey's not over, man. Every great
Right.
story tells you got to turn back around and go back to humanity and present this prize of great wealth and share it with the world. And to us, that's Christ.
Right.
And everyone is on their hero's journey, whether they realize it or not. And everyone's journey is different, man. So, saddle up, say yes, step out into the unknown, man, and let's begin.
Yeah, dude. The truth is stranger than fiction. And I mean, it's the same in the mystery schools, bro. Like the higher initiatory status you go, it's like, what are you going to do with this knowledge? Like, what path are you going to go down? Been reading lately in this one book how Christianity is, in a way, its own mystery school.
Yeah.
If you really if you read it that certain way, I think there's many different ways to interpret the biblical text. And then when you add in the Apocrypha and, even other types of, the Ugaritic text and the Gnostic Gospels and all that stuff, regardless of what you think about it. I mean, I tend to find truth in all of it, like it may not be 100%, but maybe 5% here, 10% over here. And, you find these stories in these other texts as well. So like, what's the first thing that kind of led you, besides the whole thing with Genesis 6 and the fallen mating with the daughters of man, which I think could be also interpreted as fallen angel, like DNA manipulation. What's one of the first things that led you to like kind of figure out that there's more than what meets the eye?
Well, honestly, it was, the Genesis 6 thing was the beginning. But then when I started looking, into that Hebrew phrase, the B'nai Ha Elohim, and that was a rainbow bridge gap, that connected a lot of dots for me. Because once I started digging through and seeing that every time that phrase is used, it's talking about divine heavenly beings. And so when I kind of started following that thread and that rabbit trail, it led me to Deuteronomy 32. And that honestly was a major paradigm shift and a new set of glasses for me. Because once again, I just grew up thinking that this was a tall building, that they were prideful, and they were going against God's commandment where he said, be fruitful and multiply and spread across the earth and take dominion. And that they just decided just to stay there and defy God, because that's what I was taught in church, and that God came down and just divided the languages and split them all up. But once I got to looking into that, when you go to Deuteronomy 32, that's a retelling of that same story, and it's got that same phrase in there. It said not only were the tongues divided, it said that mankind was divided amongst the B'nai Ha Elohim, the sons of God. And I was like, whoa, okay. And so then I started reading all these other stories and instances that Michael Heiser talked about, showing that this was the belief of the people of that time, that there was gods, over the different nations, and it was like a territory type thing, like a gang, a gang battle. Different gangs had different, sections of the city.
Absolutely.
And, yeah, and then I can't remember the guy's name now, but he was a Roman soldier that went and got healed by a prophet, and he goes back and begs the prophet for 2 mule loads of dirt to take back to his homeland. And reading that, I just kind of read over it. I was like, okay, that's strange, you know. But then Dr. Michael Heiser talked about it in his book. He's like, it's because of the Deuteronomy 32 worldview, because Yahweh was over Israel, and he's seen the power of Yahweh because he was healed by him. So therefore, he wanted to take some of this earth back with him and make him, you know, a sanctuary or a place that where Yahweh's territory went with him. And it answered all these questions because that I had, and other, you know, atheists and non-believers would throw at Christians often. You know, well, if your God's real, then he's just a shitty God. You know, how do you explain all the war, the atrocities? My sister was raped by our stepfather till the time, you know, that she was 20 years old.
Yeah.
You know, if your God's in control, he's just a shitty God. Well, no, with this Deuteronomy 32 worldview, it answers a whole lot of questions. And Ezekiel 28 is another example. You know, he's calling out this king of Tyre, but then all of a sudden it changes. He's like, you were in the Garden of Eden. Every precious stone was your covering. You were perfect in all your ways. You were an anointed guardian cherub. It's like, whoa, 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 whoa. He ain't talking to this king no more. He's talking to the principality that Paul talks about, the rulers, the principality, spiritual wickedness in high places. It's these Deuteronomy 32 sons of God that are pulling the strings like puppets on the world leaders and influencing the world around us. So to me, that was just like, whoa, okay, I got to keep digging, man. There's got to be more.
Yeah, dude. And I mean, I've kind of looked into Heiser's stuff. I came up more on Sitchin's work. So just looking at like the ancient Sumerian, those mythologies, and then you find these same stories in the Book of Enoch. You find them in the biblical text. That's when you realize that every time a Satan is referenced in the Bible, it's a different deity, right? It's one of these fallen entities, which some people, you know, look at them as angelic beings. You got the thing with the aliens, the ancient aliens, all that. Which you know, I kind of fall in between all of it, to be honest with you. I think there's truth in all of it. And then you got people that think that they're just ancient humans, you know, with advanced technology, right? So yeah, that's something about these stories that stood out to me as well. But it really is fascinating when you look into it. I've seen you talk about Esau a whole bunch. Who was Esau to you?
Yeah, honestly, because I had just finished my first book, and so I was kind of going like,
oh, cool,
like a
man! What's your
podcasting
book?
Tour, you know, kind of talking about the book. But
Dude,
yes,
show your book, dude. Come on.
Yes, it's called The Epic of Esau, the Birthright and Seed War, and that was a 2-year obsession that I finally just had to just put a cap on it and get it out there. But honestly, that started as like a catty joke. Me and my friends had actually Trey Smith on our little, you know, Bible study podcast, and I was fangirling it hard, you know. And but I tried my best to keep my composure and be professional. But at the end of it, he made this little comment. You know, he's like, "Hey, you guys are from East Tennessee. That's Bigfoot country. You know, maybe the next time that I come down that way, we'll go on a Bigfoot hunt, and I'll film it, and we'll do a documentary." And Genesis 25:25 just popped into my head, man, out of nowhere. You know, and I got it on this shirt here because it was kind of like a little shirt that I'd made, kind of promoting the book.
Oh, that's sick, dude.
But it says, for those that's not familiar, Genesis 25:25 says, the first one come out red, covered in hair from head to toe, like a hairy cloak. And I was like, dude, that sounds pretty Sasquatchy to me, bro. So I said to Trey, I'm like, well, Trey, what do you think about Esau? You know, Genesis 25:25. And he kind of stopped. He's like, well, he was a really hairy dude. And I said, well, do you think maybe he could have been the first Bigfoot? I said, that dude sounds pretty squatchy to me. And we just kind of laughed, you know, or whatever. And it went on.
Yeah.
And honestly, it was like the next week I had who was it? Gary Wayne on the show, and we were talking about
Nice.
the Epic of Gilgamesh. And I knew the overall story, but I'd never sat down and actually just read the whole story. So before I had him on, I'd done that. And then I bump into this guy, Enkidu.
Yep.
He's a mighty hunter, just like Esau. He's covered in hair from head to toe like Esau. And I'm like, dude, here's another one of these hairy dudes. You know, they're all in these ancient texts and biblical stories, I bet, if I just dig enough, you know. So, and then it might have been 2 weeks later after that. I had a guy on and we were going through the book of Jasher. And then,
Great book, dude.
yeah, and you bump into Nimrod, the mighty hunter, and it says that he builds up hatred and envy and jealousy against Esau, the other mighty hunter. So it's kind of like the Highlander. You know, there could only be one, baby. So they had to clash, and the way they worded it, man, it's like Nimrod was hunting this hairy beast of a man named Esau. And so then as that story went through and I read it, and I was like, holy crap, dude, this sounds like a mirrored image of the Epic of Gilgamesh. And a lot of historians and scholars, biblical scholars, they align Nimrod with Gilgamesh.
Absolutely. Heracles, Nimrod, Gilgamesh. Yeah, man. And Enkidu, he's a big part of that story, and that goes right back to Sumeria with Enki, obviously, I think, creating him in a DNA lab. Because when you go back and look at some more of Sitchin's stuff, and it talks about, they had these labs that they were tinkering with their DNA and the DNA of these other hominids that they were finding here on Earth, right? And then they would be able to make noises but couldn't speak, were covered in hair, all this stuff. And I'm pretty sure they were just setting them into the wild until they, and then it talks about there's several tribes of atoms and stuff. And that's a theory that I've seen a few people come at me with lately, to be honest with you. You have the story of Adapa and then Adamu, all these different names for Adam. But you think about it and you're like, was there like clans of Adam or something?
Yeah, and Adam was also described, a lot of people look over it, but he was described as a B'nai Ha-Elohim.
Well, he was a Sumerian king. I'm pretty sure he was one of the first Sumerian kings, was Adapa.
Yeah.
I think
what's crazy too is when it talked about in the Epic of Gilgamesh, when they created Enkidu, it said specifically that they created him as an equal to Nimrod, and a vision that Nimrod has, or Gilgamesh. I'm conflating the stories, but when a dream Gilgamesh has, his mother appears to him and says that he was created as his equal, and it was basically his brother. And that he was created, though, in the image of Sam Quain. And when you look at Sam Quain, he was a fertility god from the land of Ur and Haran, that area there. And he was just like all these other male fertility gods. He was a wild man. He was covered in hair from head to toe, and he was also known as the god of the cattle. And that his hair was thick from head to toe, and it was matted. And that's exactly how, Esau is described. I mean, a lot of people want to say that, it was poetic language, but when you have the deception of his brother Jacob and his mother Rebekah, what do? They go kill a goat and skin the goat, and they wrap him like a blanket in this goat's fur. That way their blind father would reach out and feel this hairy, coarse, and oily goat's fur to trick them into believing that he was Esau. I mean, so he was literally that hairy.
Yeah. That. So, do you think there's anything like in the story of Esau that's linked to the story of Enkidu?
Well, with me, I just seen that I love like comparative mythology, like you said. I agree full-heartedly that all of these legends, all of these myths have hints of the truth in them.
Right.
You just have to find them. And when you do comparative mythology and you look at all these similar stories and put them side by side, to me, it's like when you see the same story, the same descriptors, the same narrative and storyline, but there's some twists. Maybe the names are different, or maybe there's some little caveats added to the story. The stuff that lines up the same throughout culture, throughout time, there has to be something to that, in my opinion.
Has to be.
So that's the truth part of it, I believe. But as I was reading those, historians and stuff and biblical scholars align Nimrod and Gilgamesh, so there's your correlation. When you look at Enkidu and his description, he was the mighty hunter covered in hair from head to toe. Esau was also the mighty hunter covered in hair from head to toe. In both stories, these two men become jealous of each other and fight and clash. But the only difference is, I think it's from the cultural standpoint. Enkidu and Gilgamesh, they were from the land of Ur and Haran. So they're going to spin it to where their king and their guy wins and looks the best. And then Esau was, from the Israelites, and he was representing their people. So in their story, he is the winner and overcomes the king of Ur. So It's just kind of like whoever's telling the story is going to spin it favorably in their light, But one of the really cool things that I found, and this was the most mind-blowing thing that I found looking into this guy that really sent me down a deep trail, was it says in that story, and this is in the book of Jasher, that Esau sees Nimrod coming, and he has a hunting party. But he separates from the party, and it says that him and two of his Gibborim, this is the same Hebrew word used to describe the Nephilim giants. It says that he sees Nimrod and his two Gibborim coming through the wilderness, and that Esau hides himself. But at the opportune time, he springs forward, and he cuts off the head of Nimrod. And then he fights to the death with these other two Gibborim and kills them. So this hairy quote-unquote man kills not one, not two, but three giants, Gibborim. And it says that the hunting party that was separated from him hears all the commotion and comes running. But it says that Esau takes the time to steal his garments. And it says, and these were the garments to which Nimrod was able to prevail over all the nations. And then he runs back home, and it says he hides these garments in his tent. But then he goes into the tent of Jacob, his brother. And there it dovetails and ties perfectly into the trading of the birthright in Genesis that never made any sense to me.
Me either.
Yeah, and just for those that's not familiar, Esau was the eldest son, and the culture was that the eldest son got the birthright.
Yep.
You were the one that got the farm, the family name, and the heirlooms. You were the one set to inherit the keys to the kingdom. So like modern term, your father's Donald Trump and you're the eldest son. So the billions of dollars, all the real estate, the businesses, everything is going to be yours. But in this story in Genesis, it just says that Esau, this mighty hunter now, that he comes in from the field exhausted and sees his brother Jacob making red lentil stew and says, "Give me some of that stew." And Jacob says, "Yeah, but only if you trade me your birthright." And that Esau just says, "What use is a birthright to me when I'm dead? Take it." And Jacob's like, No, promise me you'll do this thing. And he's like, "Yeah, I promise, just give me the soup." And it says that Esau eats the soup and leaves. And in church, I was just taught that, Esau was a carnal man. He was ruled by his desires of the flesh and his gut. And I was like, he was the mighty hunter. He could have had a lion's steak if he was hungry, if that's what it was. How come this mighty hunter is starving to death? That don't make sense. And, I wouldn't trade my birthright for a stinking bowl of red soup. But when you tie in that book of Jasher, yeah, he come in from the field exhausted, all right. He just fought 3 giants to the death. Right. He just killed the king, so he's on the run, fearing for his life. And he probably sustained some life-threatening injuries in this exchange. So this red soup is allegorical, basically, to,
Yeah.
hey, the CIA, the FBI is after me. I just killed the president, and I've been shot several times, man. I need you to bandage me up and hide me and make sure, keep me safe. And now that makes a lot more sense to him saying, what use is a birthright to me when I'm dead? Take it. He was bleeding out. He was desperate.
Wow, dude.
Yeah.
That's something, man. Yeah, no, that always confused me as to why he just would give it away, and then it kind of, it just trails off from there. It doesn't even explain it anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, that book of Jasher, that's where you find the story of Tubal Cain apparently slaying Cain, right?
He was covered in hair.
He
was
looked like an
cursing.
animal running at him, so it
Yeah.
says. And I'm like, well, wait a minute, I just the way that he spoke about it, and the mark of Cain, right?
Mhm.
Like I've heard theories. My co-host of Elohim Etymology, he said that he thinks it may be the Native Americans, how they can never grow facial hair or something, or it may be
Yeah. Well, the medieval
covered in
rabbi
hair.
Rashi, that's what he says. He thinks that the cursing, the mark, was that he was covered in hair from head to toe. And that's why he was scared to death that somebody or something was going to kill him because of what he looked like.
Hunted him like an animal, basically.
Yeah. And honestly, dude, right now, I want you listeners to see this too. Search up The Last Judgment, Sistine Chapel. And I got a picture of it in my book, but it's black and white, and every time I try to show it, it doesn't show well. But in there, I think Michelangelo, was reading these extra biblical books and all these other scrolls and knew some stuff that was lost to us today, like some of this stuff I'm talking about today. Because if Cain's cursing was that he was covered in hair from head to toe, and it said he was also given a horn, a single horn, and then Esau, in the extra biblical books and Targums and all these other extra biblical books, says that Esau was a serpent seed. It says that he come out with a serpent brand, and that even his guardian angel was Samael,
There
the
you
viper
go.
of God, the angel of death. And so I think Michelangelo in that painting made sure
Is
he put
this
the
it right
serpent
here?
seed in there.
Is it this one?
It shows a bunch of people floating in the air like they're fighting. Then if you go straight down, it shows the ground, and there's a hill and a cave right at the bottom in the center. And in that cave is where you have, I think, that Michelangelo was painting the two serpent seeds, Esau and Cain, as like a little hidden Easter egg.
Wow, dude.
Here, back out. I think I seen it like toward my left and down.
I can try to zoom in and no.
Yeah.
I need to have it.
Back up. I think you went past it. I seen it flash.
Do I need to scroll out or go to another picture?
It was the other picture as you was going through, like it flashed like you had hit a scroll button or something.
This one?
Okay, try zooming in at the bottom. That might be it.
I see the serpent.
In the grassy knoll, there's a cave.
I see the cave right here. It's cut off in the picture. Oh shit! Well, now it's taking me to the damn Wikipedia.
There's a flame.
I see the flame. Yeah,
it's plain as day. There's a Sasquatch, and then there's a hairy man with one horn, like in his face, like he's yelling at him.
That's wild, man.
Yeah. So
I'm gonna have
Michelangelo was reading these extra biblical books and stuff, and knew that, and kind of put that in there as like an Easter egg.
I mean, yeah, I think you find that a lot. I think if you look at the Last Supper, even if you look and you lighten up the background, you'll see there's like an eye of Horus on the wall. All these like like these hieroglyphs from Egypt. And apparently the theory is that the Last Supper was in the king's chamber of the
I've
Great
heard that.
Pyramid. Yeah.
That Da Vinci based it off those dimensions or something like that.
Yep. And that it hid the divine feminine, the upside down triangle, in between Mary and Jesus. There's like a perfect triangle. It's fascinating stuff, dude.
Even in that Last Supper too, he painted like a little Easter egg that's lost to culture is Judas. He's sitting there in that blue robe or whatever with his elbow on the table. But if you zoom in at his elbow, there is a salt shaker spilling salt on the table. And what that's signaling is that Judas is a covenant breaker. Because back then, you would make salt covenants. And at the Last Supper, they, postulate that where they were fishermen and stuff, that they would take like this, they'd make this fish soup, real salty fish soup, and they would dip the bread into it.
Right.
So when they were having this Last Supper, they were coming into covenant with one another. You even see imagery of the marriage covenant of taking a sip from the glass and everyone taking a sip to accept the covenant. So Da Vinci was putting that as a little Easter egg in the painting, showing that Judas was a covenant breaker.
I see that now. I see the salt shaker.
Yeah.
Wow, man.
It's one of those things, I mean, it's like some people call it the difference between the initiates and the profane. The ones that see it, knows what it is. But for those that's not familiar with the cultural contexts and the lingo and stuff, it kind of just goes over our head.
Yeah, dude. God, I'm still thinking back on that Esau stuff that you were talking about, man. I've never noticed some of those things that you were saying. Yeah, and then you find in what is it, Genesis 32, right before Genesis 33, where Jacob wrestles with God at Peniel, right?
Yeah.
And then he goes and meets his brother Esau again. I think he goes through some kind of spiritual initiation or something, where he finds his third eye. Yeah, definitely. What's up, Subliminal? I see you on the YouTube. Guys, on Rumble. I don't know what's happening with the connection to StreamYard, but it's not letting me connect the stream like I usually do. So I'm still able to stream, and I have your chat pulled up, but I can't pull y'all's comments up. I'm a little upset about it.
Yeah. But with that book of Jasher, though, when I was reading that, my very next, question was, well, what's up with these garments? What was so special about these garments that, sitting there after fighting these three giants, about to bleed to death, and takes the time, even though the armed guards are running at him, to steal Nimrod's garments and to even take the time, it said, to hide them in his house. Oh, excuse me, before he goes into his brother's tent to get his life-saving care. And the Jasher, it just says, these were the garments to which Nimrod was able to prevail over all the nations. So I was like, what the hell is so special about these garments? And when you keep reading, not only through Jasher, but through, the Midrashes and the Targums, all these rabbis and their writings and stuff, I mean, this was a well-known thing to those people. It's just been lost to us. But I found out that these were the supernatural garments from the Garden of God, given to Adam to cover his nakedness. And this was the birthright. It was the sign and symbol of kingship and priesthood and authority. And it was passed to the eldest son. And they trace it, kind of like the order of Melchizedek.
Right.
It was given to Adam. Then from Adam it went to Enoch, to Methuselah, to Noah, and it said that Noah had them on the boat going over the flood, and that in Ham's going out, Ham steals the garments, and that he hides them, and then gives them to Cush, and then Cush hides them, and then it says that Nimrod was the child of Cush's old age, whom he loved exceedingly. And then at the coming of age, when Nimrod turned 20 years old, Cush gave him the garments, and that he put on the garments. And it said, and when he put on the garments, he became a Gibberim. And so in the book of Genesis, it says that Nimrod wasn't born a Gibberim. It says he becomes a Gibberim.
So are these
So a
some
lot
kind of
people-
like magical garments or something, dude?
Yes. Yes. And according to the ancient legends and writings, it says that the wearer of these garments is basically invincible, and that they get prophetic dreams, and that even the beasts of the field bow down to the wearer. And they attribute these garments to Noah being able to get all these animals on the boat and subdue them because he was wearing the garments.
Wow, dude. You're blowing my mind, man. Does this have anything to do with the garments that Joseph wore?
They're the exact same ones.
Okay.
Because when you go to Ezekiel 28, okay, it says, talking to Satan, it says, you were once in the garden of God, perfect in your ways till iniquity was found in you. And it says, every precious stone was your covering. And it says beryl, onyx, topaz, jasper, onyx. It names all these stones. And it says they were set in gold inlays, and they were perfect the day that they were created for you. And so the Masoretic texts list 9 stones, but the Septuagint lists 12 stones. This is a Polaroid picture carbon copy of the priestly ephod that the priests wore entering the holiest of holies. It's the priestly ephod.
The ones that Aaron had, right?
Yes. So it's painting Satan in a priestly role. And then if you keep going down, it says not only is it painting him in this role with this priestly ephod, it even says outright, you profaned your sanctuaries, and you were cast from the mountain of God as a profane thing. So at the fall, Satan was demoted. His dominion and priesthood over earth was taken away and given to Adam. And Adam became the first king and priest over creation and as a human. And so that alone would explain why Satan hates you. You are his younger brother that he tried to trick, and he was demoted, and his position and authority was taken away and given to the one he tried to trick and deceive.
So where do you think this garment is today?
In the archives of the Vatican or some powerful family's basement? I think
Some
something like that
powerful
would have
family's
been well
basement.
been took care of, because when you get to Joseph, it uses the same language as it did with Nimrod. Because remember I said that Cush said that Nimrod was the child of his old age, whom he loved exceedingly, and he gave him the garments. It says the same for Joseph. It says Joseph was the child of his old age, whom he loved exceedingly. And he
Isaac's son, or no, that's Jacob's son, right?
Yeah, and bestowed upon him the coat of many colors. And what happens? Soon as he gets this coat of many colors, he starts having prophetic dreams. And what does he say? He says, brothers, I see you bowing down to me and serving me. He said, I see the wheat of the field bows to me. Even the stars of heaven, the morning stars bow before me. That's the angelic host, because he is now the king and priest. He's got that authority, that sheriff's badge, basically. And that's when the brothers plot to kill him and get rid of him.
Is this what Melchizedek gave to Abraham?
No, this was already in the circulation because Adam had it.
Okay, you explain that with because you brought up the Melchizedek. There's lots of ways to say it. That priesthood, and that was, I believe, like the first mystery school.
See, I think it's a Christophany, because you have all these appearances of, in my opinion, of Christ, before he was born in the flesh, and he was the angel of the Lord. And I think this Melchizedek, that was him.
Absolutely.
And like when you get to Hebrews, it says that Christ has become the high priest forever, at the right hand of the Father, in the order of Melchizedek, who had no father or mother beginning or nor end. So if you think about that, and I talk about it in the book too, at the war in heaven in Revelation, which I think that is at the birth of Christ. Because Revelation 12, it says, behold, these signs were in heaven, a woman clothed in the sun, Virgo, with the sun in her womb. And it said, with 12 stars on her head. That's the constellation Leo. And then it says, and the moon at her feet was in travail giving birth, and the dragon lay in wait to devour the child. That's the constellation Hydra, whose tail takes up 1/3 of the heavens. And where his tail is, there's a significant lack of stars. That's the third that got swept down. So at the birth of Christ, I think that's like this, when Satan and his cohorts knew the plan. They kind of had hints and kind of, had highlights of what they thought was going to happen. But once it happened, they knew. They're like, we have to strike now. And that he was cast down. And when you look at the ascension of Christ, what does it say? It says that he comes at the right hand of the Father, takes the scroll, which is the land deed to earth, in my opinion, and starts opening it. But it says that when Satan was cast down, it gives this little detail. It says, because there was no longer a place for him. In the Old Testament, when Satan is accusing Joshua, the high priest, in that vision, it says that Satan was at the right hand of the Father. But he's swept down because there's no longer a place for him. And Jesus comes in at the right hand and is now the king and priest of creation forever. So it's like we traded the accuser of the brethren day and night at the right hand of the Father to Jesus Christ, the intercessor for man, day and night. Amen.
Yeah. Yeah. Dude, yeah. So I was going to ask you, in the book of Enoch, it's Enoch 1. There's an angel named Phanuel, and it's the same thing like what you said. It's almost as if it's Christ like in heaven at the like right hand of God or something. That's the only place you really see him, but it says that this angel would be the sacrificial lamb. I should have had it. I'm pretty used to pulling books out and just reading to my audience. But no, when you said that about Melchizedek, that's not the first time that I've heard that, and it goes on to well, like you said, Adam, Melchizedek, Asaph, which I think is the same as Esau, right?
It might be. I don't know, because he did have the garments, because he, like I said, he killed Nimrod and took them. And when you get into Perk Eleazar in his writings, he has this prophecy, and I just found out about this talking with Zen Garcia, and there's a prophecy of the 10 kings, and it's the seed war, and it talks about the line of the serpent, the seed of the serpent, and the seed of Adam, and that they're at constant struggle with one another, and that they're fighting. And that this basically the kingship will be passed back and forth between the two, and that this was the birthright, and whoever had this, the rod of Moses and the garments of power is what some people called it. This was the robe was kingship, and the rod was priesthood. And whoever had these on had the kingship and priesthood, and that they was battling back and forth for these. And it shows that Nimrod was one of those kings because he was in possession of them. And then it even has Esau for a time where he steals them. But he has them just for a very short time. Because when you get into Genesis, like I said, but once you have these set of glasses and you see the garments, you see it all through Scripture.
Right.
In that story where Rebekah and Jacob trick Isaac, if you pay attention in that story, it says that they wrap him in the goat's fur, and they're getting ready to send him in to fool Isaac. But as like the cherry on top for the deception, it says that Rebekah goes to Esau's tent and takes his special garment and places it upon Jacob. That's the supernatural garments, according to the book of Jasher, that he hid in his house before he went in to get the bowl of soup and care from his brother. And Rebekah knew that he had them. And while he was gone, she snuck in his house, stole the supernatural garments from the garden of God, and placed them on Jacob before he went into the tent of Isaac to not only steal the birthright, but also the blessing. And another time that you see those is with the uncovering of thy father's nakedness. And that's something that's highly misconstrued and misunderstood. As a kid, when I heard that story, I was like, that makes absolutely no sense. I mean, if I'm at school all day and I come home and my father's passed out drunk in the floor naked and I happen to see him, how the hell is that my fault?
Right.
And then he doesn't even curse him. He curses Canaan. Canaan is the firstborn son, and if you read that chronologically, Canaan wasn't even born yet. But when you get into the original languages and the etymology and things and the culture, it makes perfect sense. Because when you go to Leviticus chapter 18, it says it plainly right there. It says, to uncover thy father's nakedness is to sleep with thy father's wife. And this was an act of rebellion in the ancient world. Absalom, when he tried to take over the kingdom and he run David out of the kingdom, the first thing he done was he pitched a tent on top of David's house and went into his concubines in the sight of all of Israel. Reuben slept with his father's concubines in an attempt to take over the family. This is how you flexed on the old man back in the day. So Ham went in and slept with his mother to try to take over the family.
That's crazy, bro.
Yeah, and then he comes
I
outside.
believe it, though.
Yeah, and he comes out and he tells his other brothers, he's like, hey, Dad's a drunk. He's no longer fit to rule anymore. I just went and did this deed. You guys go in and do it too. We'll divide the entire earth up amongst ourselves, and he can't take all three of us. But the book of Genesis says the brothers refused the rebellion, and that they take a garment, put it on their back, walk backwards, and cover their father's nakedness. But when you go into the original language, it doesn't say they took a garment. It says they took the garment. They had a
literal
specific
armor of God.
Yes,
basically.
the supernatural garments from the garden of God, the symbol of kingship and authority. And think about that even theologically. If you have someone trying to take over the authority position of the house, you refuse the rebellion by placing the crown back on the rightful person. So they took the symbol of kingship and placed it back upon their father, refusing the rebellion. And then Canaan, him being cursed, why that makes sense? Because when you read it says, cursed be Canaan, a servant to thy brothers Shem and Japheth he shall be. And you're like, whoa. That ain't his brothers. That'd be his uncle. Well, hold up. The only way Canaan can be the brothers of Shem and Japheth is if holy shit, they got the same mother.
Right.
So Ham, sleeping with his mother, trying to take over the family, got her pregnant. And Canaan was an incest baby. And when Noah woke up and found out what had happened, that his wife was pregnant and that they were going to name it Canaan and that it was Ham's, that's why he said, cursed be Canaan. A servant to thy brothers he shall be. And that's why God's people was commanded not to take wives or husbands from the Canaanites, because they were a cursed lineage from the beginning. They stemmed from incest.
Yeah, I mean, if
Now,
you look
that
into
was a mind blow for me.
Right. No, you've been blowing my mind this whole time. And then if you look into the Canaanite pantheon, it's kind of one of the darkest groups of gods. You know what I mean? That's where Baal stems from. I mean, that's even when you see the name Yahweh used, right? But as far as Dagon, El, Mot, and that's those stories you see, that's just rebranded from Sumeria, in my opinion. It's just the same little group of gods that you see. But Oh man, you interpret these stories, a lot of these biblical text, the same way that I do. It's it's refreshing to find someone.
And I think that's why
Because
so many people that I've talked to is like, man, you need to go talk with Jules from Grayfield, man. You guys would get along great.
yeah, man. And so when you bring up Esau being a Bigfoot, being a Sasquatch, I think that's where all of the cryptids come from. Any cryptid that you see is a failed DNA, like Nephilim portal baby, if that makes any sense.
And it gets even more muddier though, man, because what's crazy is after the stealing of the blessing and birthright from Jacob, that's when Esau goes into full rebellion. It says that he takes 3 wives, and they're all Canaanites. Well, I'm sorry, 2 of them's Canaanites. The other's from his father's lineage, because he takes 2 Canaanite wives, and then his third wife, he goes to Ishmael, which was his father Isaac's brother, his elder brother. And just like Esau, Ishmael was the eldest brother that was screwed out of his birthright and inheritance. So you can imagine the hatred that was sown at those family get-togethers, because he went to somebody that could sympathize with his situation. Esau was the eldest that was screwed out of his birthright, so he went to his uncle, who was also the eldest and screwed out of his birthright. And when you follow the lineages, all of your Islamic and Muslim nations, all the peoples that just, the Palestinians that just want
come
to
from Ishmael.
They utterly want to eradicate God's people. It's from this union. And then the 2 Canaanites that he took, thanks to people like Gary Wayne and their deep dives of the genealogies, we now know that those were known Nephilim giant tribes. And one of them was, the father-in-law was Seir, and he reigned from the land of Mount Seir, which, when you break into the Hebrew etymology of that name, that means hairy. So you have this hairy, quote-unquote, Sasquatch man marrying into and breeding with Nephilim giant clans who were known to be hairy. So you got a high probability of throwing some strange pups there. But Amalek stems from one of these unions with these Nephilim giant tribes. And he birthed the Amalekite race. And when you get into the etymology of that, that means the blood lickers.
So vampires.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And all these rabbis and ancient texts talk about the Amalekites. They were basically like the Viking berserkers of the Middle East. They were fierce warriors, known for dominating the battlefield, and that they were also sorcerers. And the Rabbi Rashi talks about the reason why God said kill every man, woman, and child and animal was because the Amalekites were known shapeshifters, and they would shapeshift into animals to evade capture. And these were the first people that God's people in their wilderness wanderings had encounters with, and they were the first tribe to attack God's people while they were in their wilderness wanderings. And if you look at the commandments, because during this time is when God starts giving all of his commandments, don't do this, don't do that. And you don't get rules, laws, commandments unless someone's doing those said things. So I think if we look at those commandments, it's telling of the people that they were having encounters with, the Amalekites, because it says, no longer will you sacrifice to hairy goat demons. It's talking about Esau and these hairy feral giant race of sorcerers. And then it says, no longer will you pass your children through the fire of Molech. You will not seek necromancers or mediums. You will not drink the blood. The life force is in the blood. These are all characteristics of this Amalekite tribe and things they were doing. And I think that God's people were seeing them and imitating their practices, and God had to step in and be like, no, you can't be doing this.
Yeah, I mean, you said that they mated with the Canaanite women. That's where cannibal comes from, is the Canaanite worship of Baal,
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, they were definitely drinking blood and a lot more grotesque things than that, I'm sure. But yeah, I definitely think there's a connection with a lot of these cryptids that we see. I've talked about that for a long time now. But I mean, it's the same when you look at like interdimensional dogman. It's like, how did this interdimensional aspect come about? Like, he had to have some supernatural DNA, right?
Yeah, sorcerers, man.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, there's these interpretations, and then you have like modern day interpretations. Like, what do you think about these crazy rabbis that teach these yeshiva classes that like talk about the United States being Esau and stuff, and how they have to like destroy Edom or Esau or whatever?
Yeah, I've not dove real deep into it, but I have heard people talk about it, and I've heard a lot of people online when I talk about what I'm talking about. They're like, "No, Esau was the white race."
Right. Well, that's what I was going to
was
ask.
the
Just
the
what
rosy cheeks.
you thought of that?
No, that's just crazy. And that just goes to show you too that somebody with a agenda or a thought idea can take one scripture or one verse and totally just twist that thing like a Laffy Taffy or a pretzel to get to their end goal or their end means. And another example of that, honestly, is like the serpent seed doctrine. You bring that up, and the first things that pops up in people's heads are the Gnostics, because they had a serpent seed doctrine, but in their doctrine was the serpent was the good guy. He was enlightening everyone and done all this stuff for us to help us to escape the prison planet to get back to Sophia. And then you had a lot of racist organizations. You had the Nazis and Hitler and the Aryan Brotherhood, even like Southern Baptist racist white people in America. You have all these different organizations that kind of grabbed onto this serpent seed doctrine and twisted it to fit their narrative and to be able to say, for instance, the blacks are of the serpent seed. They're not human. They need to be eliminated. They're not even human. Just kill them all. Or the same thing with the Jews. The Jews are not really God's chosen people. They're the ones that say they are Jews but are not. They are serpent seed lineage. They're not human. Kill them all. So you have all kinds of people that can grab onto any idea, verse, or theology and just manipulate and twist that thing to fit their narrative and their end goal. And I think that what you had mentioned is no different, because the Edomites, it's just like the word Babylon. You hear Babylon or read Babylon, it's not always specifically talking about the physicality, the physical city of Babylon.
Right.
That was like an epithet. They called Rome Babylon. Anybody that opposed them, they called them Babylon. And the same thing with the Edomites. The Edomites were a thorn in God's people's side. And it said that when Nebuchadnezzar II destroyed the city, that the Edomites stood by and watched and, clapped and cheered as God's people was taken away in chains led back to Babylon. So that was kind of like an epithet. Anyone that was an adversary or a hindrance, to God's people, the Jewish people just called them Edomites. It was
same thing
like
for
catch-all
Amalek
term.
too, right?
Yeah. Never forget. Yeah.
Yeah, dude. No, I just figured I'd get your opinion on that, because I'm sure you've gotten that question thrown at you before.
Yeah.
And with everything going on today in Israel and all that stuff, everyone's gonna have their own opinion. I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't really. I care more about our country than anything. So I don't think we should be sending money to anybody when people up around where you are still don't have homes and are still suffering from all those hurricanes we've had the last year, and who knows if those if that weather was even natural, right?
Right.
With heart and everything that we know now,
Yeah, what was all the lithium mines and stuff in the North Carolina mountains?
Yeah, dude. Same thing in Hawaii. Like, who bought up all that land, man? You know?
Yep. Everybody started buying blue tin roofs, didn't they?
Yes, indeed, dude. I mean, take note of that, bro. Like, be sure to at least paint your roof blue, right?
Yeah.
When the next laser, whenever they launch that, my voice just cracked. Does that sometimes.
Oh, Fire Pixie, I seen that. Said they're about 20 minutes away from the mountains of North Carolina. Same. I live in a little town that's right on the border of North Carolina. It takes me maybe 40 minutes, 45 minutes to drive to Asheville from where I'm at.
Okay. Yeah, because we were talking before the show, and you were a couple hours from where my mom lives in Knoxville. Wanted to bring this up before we get out of here. Dude, I went to a spiritual warfare class that was like 3 sessions. It's a lot of stuff that I already knew, but some more stuff that I learned that I'm glad I did. And then went to this deliverance today, man. It's wild, dude. How much different I feel after leaving.
Oh yeah.
Was there for 3 hours and worked through a lot of just like a lot of trauma I didn't even know I had from like when I was a kid, and got some bad attachments off of me, I think. You know what I mean?
Well, that's awesome, man. I was about to ask, were you being worked on, or was you working on other people? But
No,
you
I
were
was being worked on.
yourself.
Yeah. I was being worked on, man. And it's a constant thing, man. You got to constantly work on yourself. Like a lot of people think, if you're baptized or you're saved or what, that's it. Right.
Yeah,
But
that's
like,
so laughable to me.
we're constantly attacked, dude. Like,
Yep.
you always have to have discernment, but also just be spiritually prepared, especially for what's coming, man, because this is all like what you mentioned earlier. All this stuff ties into one another. Like it's all a spiritual battle, in my opinion. Like, but dude, so apparently my mom went to I guess like a fortune teller years ago, like 15 years ago. And was told that there was a curse that was put on our family.
Mm.
And today I talked about that with this lady. And dude, I think we broke it because there was an earthquake like right there where my mom lives. And
That's
it
wild.
happened while I was there.
It was
And
like
my wife
9:30 this
tried
morning, wasn't it?
calling me and everything. Yeah, dude. Yeah. So kind of blows my mind. I'm kind of like, oh shit, I hope I didn't do that. But
you feel better. You feel lighter.
Yeah, man. That's a very good way of putting it. Lighter. Was exhausted.
Demonic oppression
afterwards.
is, dude. It's heavy. I
It is,
feels
dude.
like a weight on you, and you carry it for so many years, man. It's like lower back pain or something. You just get used to it. You know what I mean? It's like you don't even feel it no more. It's like, okay, that's normal. But when you get back relief, or you get relief from demonic oppression and stuff like that, man, you're like, ah, man, is this what normal feels like?
Yeah, well, dude, like I had like family members that were in the Eastern Star and then the Shriners that took oaths and whatnot, and separated those like bloodline oaths, right?
Yeah,
Like
generational
cut
curses,
those off.
brother.
Yeah, cut those off because I know that stuff exists. I know about generational curses, and like I've talked to you before, I'm into all the mystery schools, looking into the esoteric stuff, and especially the initiations and the degrees of certain things. And yeah, man, it's something that I was going to talk about eventually on a stream, but I figured we were already getting into
Yeah, man.
the occult biblical stuff that's just completely hidden, man. Like, I think more people should be talking about this. I think this should be like mainstream Christianity, in my opinion.
Yeah, and it's not salvational, man. You know what I mean? It's like knowing about Esau and the garments from the Garden of God and all this kind of stuff. You know what I mean? It's not detrimental to your faith or your salvation.
Right, but it's
But
that
man, it's like a skeleton key though, man. It's like it
yes,
unlocks all so
yes,
much stuff, and like the birthright trading, the uncovering thy father's nakedness, uh, you know, all these things that we've talked about today, and I've just threw out a few that made no sense, you know, without that context. And now it's like you got a full view of it, and like I talked about at the beginning of the show, it excites you, draws you closer to God, and answers a lot of those whys, and just paints a lot more fuller picture. Because you know, it says my people perish from lack of knowledge. You
yeah,
know, so it's yeah. I mean, you can be saved and make it to heaven and have a relationship with Christ, but it's like we're commanded to get off the milk and grow some teeth and convert to the meat.
well,
And
yeah,
this
dude.
is the
You
meat
know,
that opens up a whole new relationship and better understanding.
absolutely, dude. You took the words right out of my mouth. That's a good way to put it. Skeleton key. And be wise as serpents, but gentle as doves, right? Or it's something along the lines of that. Um, yeah, dude, definitely. When you start to look into the deeper meaning of these texts and these parables, and like you really uncover some stuff, and like we were talking about earlier, it I think can only strengthen your bond with the Holy Spirit, right, or
Yeah.
the Creator, whatever you call it. Um, I don't see it being uh, like a con, right? Seems like more of a pro than a con to me.
Yeah,
But
it makes
people
too much
fear
sense.
what they don't know. You know, people fear the unknown, and they don't even want to dip their feet in the water. You know,
Yeah. And like you talked about, it's like, you know, some people want to call you a heretic, a blasphemer, and all this stuff and discourage you from reading these extra biblical books and going down these rabbit holes. And it's like, man, everybody has their own journey. So it's like if you're that sheep that, I know this sounds bad, but it's like if you're that sheep that's got that tight leash and wrapped around the pole, or you're in your little square box, you know, and there's a hole in the fence, uh, just because you don't want to go outside that fence or you don't want to come off your leash, don't be discouraging others from wanting to leave and see what's outside the fence.
absolutely, man. And I really want to get you back on, and we can maybe. I really want to dive into some of this stuff a little further with you. I'm sure there's more symbolism that we could pull out of this, and I've been talking about this for a minute, like getting people together for like a bigger discussion on like a roundtable of some sorts. I think would be very beneficial, uh, especially with these kind of topics, man. You know,
Oh yeah,
so
multiple perspectives, man. We
yeah,
all
yeah,
have pieces to the puzzle. So
exactly.
conversations like this, we're exchanging puzzle pieces.
We all have our own little gnosis or knowledge about a particular thing. Oh, over each
Yeah.
other, right? But it all kind of comes back to the same uh, topics and subjects. So, I mean, yeah, I know you're a busy guy. You're just like me. You have a full-time job. But if you're ever free, I'm trying to get one of those scheduled
Yeah,
where
man.
we can
Just
get a
yeah,
bunch
let
of
me
people
know.
on.
I'm old school. I got the old write down calendar. It's like if somebody texts me or
Me too,
messages
bro.
me and I'm at work, and I'll be like, "Hey, man, that sounds fun. I like to do it, but I can't tell you till 8 o'clock tonight when I get home, and I can look at my physical calendar."
You're a lot like me, dude. Yeah, I really can't tell you until I get off work what time I get off. If I'll be able to, do a stream here in a few hours or so. So,
Yeah.
uh,
How everybody's
that,
doing that Calendly thing, that digital calendar. I actually signed up and tried to do that, but that's just too complicated for
that's
me. I
what
can't
Nate was
understand
telling me last
it.
night. Nate from Reality Czars, he was like, "Man, I tried to do the Calendly. Fuck that." He was like, "That thing." He was like, "It would take me longer. It would be like more of a process to do that than to just write it down on paper." And so
Yeah.
I completely understand. I do the same thing.
Old
Uh,
school.
Old school, exactly. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, dude.
Yeah.
Well, Doc, let people know where, where they can find you, what you got coming, how they can support the show.
Hey, well, man, thank you. I appreciate you having me, and I've enjoyed the conversation. And yeah, this is definitely going to be the first of many. I want to
Yes,
have you over
sir.
at my house too. Have you on my show, talk about some stuff. Maybe we can dig into ancient Samaria and stuff.
Dude,
I know that's kind of your thing there.
Yeah, I'd love to. And it's something that I take with a grain of salt because I know Sitchin just interpreted it, I've read into Heiser stuff too. Like I said, I try to come in from a middle perspective, unbiased, I think Sitchin's interpretations about some of it are wrong, but as far as like the pantheons and the stories go that line up with all these other stories, there's something to it,
Oh yeah, if there's common themes, yeah, it has to be something to it.
Yeah, man. But definitely, I definitely want to come on your show. I'd love that. So let's schedule that ASAP. But but yeah, man. Where
anywhere
can folks
you can
find
consume content, guys? Anywhere, YouTube, Spotify, Apple, any of those fine places that you can consume content, you can find me on there. All the social medias, I'm on all those. I'll usually put out, at least 1 or 2 reels a day. I put out usually 2 to 3 episodes a week. You're guaranteed 1 week, but I usually throw out extras and stuff. The book, The Epic of Esau, Birthright and Seed War, you can find it on Amazon. You can get the digital copy for 10 or the physical for 20. The website is PrometheusLensPodcast.com. You can go there. I have my info for the different PayPal, Venmo, all that kind of stuff. If you want to, as long as you're in the United States, if you send me $25, I can get you a signed copy, and I have custom bookmarks and stickers, little goodie bag that I put together with all the signed copies that people buy. But I also have through my website, you can find I have what's called a All Access Pass membership. You get 48-hour early access to all episodes, ad-free content, and exclusive episodes. And I'm currently working on, I filmed 3 documentaries that I'm working on piecing them together. We just done a Bigfoot hunt. Me and a bunch of podcasters got together and camped out all weekend.
Who'd you go with?
There was a bunch of us.
It wasn't Cult of Conspiracy, was it?
No, it was
supposed to go with those guys.
CW Operations, Midwest Mythos, Harley Owens, Kevin from Where the Weird Ones Are.
That sounds
Jessica,
fun, dude.
The Cryptid Huntress. But Harley has this research area out here that he's had lots of experiences and lots of Bigfoot prints and stuff. So we went out there and camped all weekend. Had thermal cameras, and I filmed the whole thing, had drones. So I'm working on that Bigfoot documentary, and I got some mounds that I went out and seen last summer and got a lot of footage and drone footage. So got lots of stuff that I'm working on. Just come over and check us out and join us on the hero's journey, guys.
Hell yeah, brother. Guys, go follow Doc on Instagram. I don't think you're on X. Go subscribe to
there,
him.
But I only got 300 subscribers on X. I ain't figured that one out yet. I'm trying.
I'm two away from 1,000. So guys, make that happen today. Next week, got an Elohim etymology that we'll be doing next Saturday. I'll also be doing an esoteric book review. Hopefully next Saturday as well. We'll see, maybe this week at some point. We'll be going back on Nephilim Death Squad as well. Got some more shows coming, so y'all stay posted for those. You find me on X, Gray Pilled Pod, Instagram, Gray Pilled _podcast, Rumble, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Go subscribe, leave me some good reviews, guys. Y'all like the video and share it with your friends and family. Stickers, got stickers. So all my Patreon people, you can go over to patreon.com/GrayPillPodcast. You sign up, got Patreon only content, or the early Elohim etymology episodes, link to the Discord, free stickers, lots of cool shit. You can support the show that way. You can also go to locals as well. I got some sound sciences lined up, guys. Always stuff that's in the works here at Gray Pilled. So Yeah. Oh, yeah. Go to paranoidamerican.com/discount/graypilled for 10% off your purchase. Support my buddy Thomas, co-host of Sound Science. Yeah. And go to toplobster.com. Be sure to get some Already Dead merch. Check us out every Tuesday live on X, Rumble, and YouTube, 8:30 Central. So I keep feel like I'm forgetting something, dude. This happens a lot. Oh yeah, not doing Sunday Chaos tomorrow because it's Mother's Day. So maybe going on Schizo tonight, everybody. Schizo News Network. So keep a lookout for that. Be on the Reality Czars channel if I can even stream it to mine. But I may hop on with the boys for a little bit. So, like I said, stay tuned, stay posted, and stay gray-pilled, everybody. We will see y'all later. Have a good rest of y'all's weekend.
Happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day. Yes, Doc. Thank you for reminding me. Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there. Keep making babies and, being the best that you can be. We appreciate you. Later, everybody.
Top Lobster Productions.